welcome to another episode of UX Pathways. I am joined today by Mr. Keith Instone. Keith, how are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing great. Happy Saturday morning.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for joining and so excited to talk with you. I know you've had an illustrious career in the field of user experience and just wonder, what is your current role and, what do you do?
Well, my current role was a little bit of a shift. I'm working for an IT consulting company, and I'm in our innovation lab section, and I'm doing research, analyst research. So sort of, not quite the caliber of Gartner, but analyst research around emerging technology and trends. And my focus is on like what new innovative user experiences can we create, should we create, so that when we're, for we as a company, when we're implementing, when we're doing cloud migrations and implementing cybersecurity and helping companies install tools to make sure that the servers are up at the appropriate times and everything, all that back end IT stuff, right? When we do that, we want to do it with business results in mind. And I'm helping translate all of those IT activities into better user experiences so that when, we can say that, hey, the business, your sales are going up or your employee productivity is going up because of all this awesome IT work that we're doing for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talked about user experience. So everyone has a different path to get into user experience. How did yours start?
So yeah, so I started out in academia when I was getting my computer science degree. I was lucky that I had a couple professors that had a psychology and sociology background. So I was also learning the human side more than the average computer science degree back in the early 80s. So that got me excited I started doing research there and doing research projects around things like how would we build this online encyclopedia for Sherlock Holmes fans in order to explore the world of Sherlock Holmes on their computer, right? And so that really got me excited into yeah, I mean, other people in computer science were studying, the algorithm for networking packets to be efficiently spread out across the world. That's great. I got more interested in sort of the social side of how are we going to build applications that people can use every day, especially applications that are fun, right? And so that got me
Right.
down the path of studying human factors and user interface design and going down that path. And then while we were doing that, the internet or the web browser was invented. So then suddenly that opened up the field of like this. There's a lot more applications that we can do because somebody could just be sitting at home in their pajamas. They would never even have to like buy the Sherlock Holmes software. They just decide on a whim that they want to learn about Sherlock Holmes for a half an hour, right? So that really started down my path. And then with that sort of core knowledge of human factors applied to this new thing called the web, then it made it easy for me to transition into being a consultant, where now people would like hire me to help them do a usability test of the website because they didn't even know that usability testing was a thing that you could do with websites back then, right? So we did, we did those, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. We can actually tell if people are using this thing. Yeah, we've been doing it for desktop software for a long time, but there's a whole bunch of new people that were web people, and this was all brand new. This was all brand new stuff to them.
And how did you continually
Yeah.
adapt throughout that whole process?
Right. And so again, I started out in computer science. Then I started learning lots of I was actually reading popular culture books, right? Because I had to understand the world of Sherlock Holmes and what makes Sherlock Holmes people tick. So then I got into this pop culture thing. And then I ran into the folks at Argus Associates and I picked up library science because we now had very large websites. And so to make a good user experience, or to make good user experiences, you have to now organize. The main problem was organizing the information well, because it was just a sea of disorganized stuff. So then I learned lots of library science stuff. As we started to get back into the app business with actual visual design things and being able to design more than just a web page with links, then I had to go bone up on my visual design skills. So I started learning about visual literacy and all these other things because I needed to be a better visual designer as part of the whole package, even though like when I was at IBM, we had the best visual designers in the world on our team. So I didn't actually have to make the visual design decisions, but I had to work with visual designers, which means I needed to understand the visual design language in order to communicate with my visual designers on my team. Um, and then, oh, right, what else? Just sort of, it's constantly picking up skills. Then at some point as a consultant, I came to the revelation that I couldn't be successful unless the organization changed some things, right? Because like they would hire me to do a usability test. I would find lots of problems. The organization would get in the way because like there was no budget or time, or I'm on the IT team and I found a usability problem that the marketing team owned, and the marketing team didn't care about fixing it. So now what's the point of me doing all this work if nothing gets better for our end users? So then I started hanging out with change managers and figuring out like, well, how would you change an organization of 500 marketing people that didn't get along with 500 IT people so that they could actually collaborate so that we could be successful? And
Yeah.
so there's probably been 5 other little things like that is like, oh, this in the next 6 months I've got to learn, I've got to read like 6 business books in the next 6 months, right? Because I'm talking to these business folks and they're using all this these business lingo things that I don't understand, and I can't communicate with them. So there was probably a 6-month period where I just read business books, right? So
Wow, that's amazing. So it just sounds like, as you went through your journey, you started learning where you needed to properly kind of direct the guidance and what skill set was needed to make that happen. And that's one of the big questions a lot of people have is, okay, so I understand now kind of what user experience is, but how do I get into it? How do I get into this field? I mean, is there any advice you would give to somebody that's trying to get into this field?
yeah, so part would be, is it really a field? But yeah, what does it mean to be a field? Because some professions are more straightforward, right? Because if you want to be a doctor, there's a pathway to become a heart surgeon, right? For better, for worse, there's a pathway that you have to go through if you actually want to do heart surgery, and it's probably a good thing because I don't want just anybody taking a boot camp and then operating on me, right? Now, user experience isn't like that. I attribute it more to like the food industry, right, where you can go to school and become a master chef and go be trained in all of the formal French cooking methods or whatever, right? That's one pathway to being, to being a great chef, right? You could do that one. But there's also like lots of Italian grandmothers who are awesome chefs too, who just picked it up through familiar methods, and they have family recipes, and they're just cooking at small scale. Some of them then open up a restaurant, which is great, but sometimes they're happy to just cook for their family every day with awesome food, right? Then you also have people that are like foodies, and like they could be terrible at cooking, but they're great at critiquing it and studying it, and they're just passionate about it, right? So there could be people whose role is just so in our analogy, right, there's lots of people that I think are foodies that are just passionate about user experience, and they're interested in it, but it may not be their job every day. There's other people that are like sous chefs, right, and they've just learned a little bit, and they're beginning and they're moving up. My son is in college and he cooks at a local restaurant that specializes in breakfast food. And again, he has no formal training in how to be a chef, but they've taught him enough to make everything on the menu, and he can make it well, right? If you would then go stick him in a 5-star restaurant and ask him to cook shrimp and steak and lobster, he would be utterly useless, right? But he's been trained to do this one specific thing well, right? So again, in our world, if you needed somebody, if you had a well-established user experience practice and you just needed somebody to conduct user interviews, you could get lots of people that have the passion and just a basic background, and they could, you could train them to just be good at that one thing. Would you then want them to design a medical device that could kill people? No, right? Medical device technology, I want that master chef, right? So again, I'm thinking if we think of it less as being a heart surgeon
Mhm.
and more as here's this food industry, and people with lots of different skill levels can compete, and you could become a top chef and never actually go to culinary school. That's an okay path, but there are tried and true ways. If you just want to sort of follow the textbook path, you can go to school and get a 4-year degree in something like human computer interaction. You get a master's degree from Kent State. You can do this, and this, or you can just be completely self-taught and do great work and also be successful.
Yeah, so there sounds like there's different levels and different situations, and that's why a lot in
Right.
this industry, a lot of UX people say it depends. You hear that a lot, yeah.
Right,
It's because
right,
there's so many variables. Totally makes sense. And Keith, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, and I wish you the best. Any final parting words for our UX enthusiasts out there?
Yeah. And again, it's hard to understand what user experience is because it's multiple things, right? So first and foremost, user experiences are those things that people feel when they use products and services, right? So that's what we have to remember. There's not like the user experience. You know, if I have a product in the market, there's not the user experience for my product. There's unlimited user experiences because it depends on, you know, if somebody's crabby that day, they're going to have a bad user experience with my product. It may have nothing to do with my product, right? So that's the first thing to understand, is that the core of what we do is this relative feeling that other people have. Deal with it. It's fluffy. It's hard to nail down. It's not like marketing. It's not like other stuff. Deal with it. But then the other thing to understand is that we also have a body of methods and processes that, like, if it's your job is to define, design, or deliver good experiences, there's some things that you can do, right? You can do a usability test. We've proven that it will help you make things better, right? There's 1,000 different things that you can do. And then third, I think what some people don't realize is like, oh, if you're actually going to get a job and you're going to work at a corporation with thousands of employees, you've now got management, you've got politics, you've got all this other stuff, that you could be the best visual designer in the world, and one of your pixel changes never sees the light of day, right? Because of organizational capabilities and lots of the other stuff. And so deal with it, right? If you don't like it, then go work for a nonprofit. Guess what? It's there too, right? And then the fourth thing is, like you mentioned, like as a field and as a discipline, right? There is science to what we do. It's not a clear-cut career path there's not a lot of gatekeepers that will keep you out. It's not like we're lawyers, and if you do something that the lawyers feel is not good for the profession, they can take away your license. So we don't have any of that stuff, which some people think is a bug and some is a feature. But for me, the nice part is that we're multidisciplinary, right? So I work with fellow user experience people. I came from computer science. Somebody else came from an English background. Somebody else came from a marketing background. Somebody else came from who knows what, right? And so that's what I like about it, because I would rather work on a team with lots of people that are different than me than to say, like, only work with people with a PhD in computer science. That just does not appeal to me personally. So those are sort of like the parting thoughts of, like, you got to break it apart into at least those 4 pieces to really start to understand what is this weird thing that people often mean when they tweet and they put the letters U and X next to each other. They could mean any of those 4 things.
That's right. Well, Keith, it was a pleasure having you explain your point of view on this industry of user experience. So thank
Okay.
you so much for being on the podcast.
All right. See you later.